Right, and this is Trumpocracy in the US. And as you all know, Donald Trump is now in the White House. The question is, what will he do for us? He's either going to be the best president in the history of the world or the worst. I don't think that he's going to settle for mediocrity. And he made an awful lot of promises that most presidents wouldn't even dare conceive of, but he did. And that's why I'm hoping for greatness. However, we're going to have to help him so that we can tell him, the government, what we want them to do instead of them telling us what they want us to do. That's Trumpocracy, where the best ideas will trump all the rest. Now, about me, Michael Matheson, I'm the author of over 60 books on Amazon. And my latest and best, I hope you will look them up, is Uber Religion, Expletives Deleted. Because this is a very spiritual quest for me. And I happen to believe that not only are our political institutions in dire need of our help, so are our spiritual and religious institutions. For example, most of them were conceived of hundreds, even thousands of years ago, and have never been improved or updated over all these years. So how can they combat all of the challenges of today's very complicated world? And then to go along with that, we have Trumpocracy, Drain the Swamp, which goes along with this course. So for more details on what we're talking about, all of the legal ramifications and political ramifications for you, for those of you who want to really dig into this idea, you can get the book on Amazon, Audible, Kindle, etc. in all kinds of different versions. Get the one that's most appropriate for you, and then give it a rating, 1 to 5 stars. And that's the Trumpocracy. That's how I came up with this idea. We already use a 1 to 5 star rating system for our restaurants and hotels. You're familiar with this. You've either used it yourself to find your best movies or restaurants or hotel deals, and even some of the ideas that you see on Facebook and Twitter and so forth, you get to rate them on the internet, 1 to 5 stars. So you're all familiar with the basics of real democracy in America. 1 to 5 stars from worst, which is 1 star, to the best, which is 5 stars. It's really that simple. It's not rocket science. Democracy is actually easy, folks. It's going to be hard for us to achieve, but in itself, it is easy. 1 to 5 stars wherever you eat. You're already doing it. Why not wherever and whenever you vote? Now, none of the presidents or the powers that be, especially Congress, none of them want you to know about this. This was discussed with President Ronald Reagan, and he rejected the idea. They use the word democracy more than any other single word in all of their speeches by a factor of 10 to 1, and yet they don't even realize what democracy is, how we would get it, how we would use it. George H.W. Bush was afraid of democracy. He was told about it. He refused to even discuss it in the media. Bill Clinton was told about real democracy and how we could achieve it, especially when the internet was introduced during his administration. He was told all about it. He discussed it and refused to bring it out into the public light. And of course, this crazy, I won't use an expletive here, but this crazy guy was told about it as well, and he refused to give us real democracy or even to discuss it in the media. So this is something that we have to do by ourselves. Even President Obama was told about this, and I have a picture of him crying over something that was very dear to him. He gave several speeches where he cried about gun control. He tried so much after 8 years to try and get some kind of gun control to save the innocent children in our society, and all he could do was cry about it. He never once created any law in relation to gun control in 8 years of crying about it. So that's the challenge. We, the people, have to take the power. There are forces in power that don't want us to have gun control. And guess who it is? The people who make the guns. They sell the guns all over the world. They don't want to cut any of their profits to save our children. And they want guns in the hands of lunatics. They don't care. And that's not what is promised in the Constitution, by the way. The constitutional amendment for guns is that we have the right to bear arms in case our government gets out of control. It says nothing about crazy people and criminals being able to own guns, and yet millions of them do, and they go around shooting our innocent children and people, the citizens of our country, every day. And not even the President of the United States can do anything about it because we do not have a real democracy. 90% of us in recent polls have said that they would prefer to have some kind of controls over guns. But do we get anything like that? Of course not, because our Congress is bought and paid for by all the money interests there are. So why not a 1 to 5-star rating system on some of the best ideas? Again, we use this wherever we eat and stay in hotels. Why not for the most important issues of our lives, wherever and whenever we vote? Why not use it to bring about a real democracy in America? Now, here's the first example that I want to give you. What if you saw this on your official ballot every time that you went to vote? There was a proposal by somebody to put all federal nonviolent prisoners in chain gangs and make them serve the public interest. Now, wouldn't you give that a 5-star rating? I think most of you watching this would do that because it makes sense. This solves 3 problems. It solves the immigration problem because if our prisoners and criminals are out there working in the fields picking fruit and vegetables for us, people who come in from the other countries to do that kind of work would be out of a job because we'd have real Americans doing it for us virtually for free. There's competition, and they would produce what millions of illegals are doing for us right now. Secondly, it would cut the cost of prisons because people would be out there earning a living and being a contributing force to the economy, not subtracting from it at the cost of almost $100,000 a year per prisoner is what it's costing us to feed them and clothe them and give them a nice, comfortable bed every night. Some of them commit crimes because they want to get into prison because it's a better life than what they have out in the streets. Well, if we had them in working very hard work that most Americans don't want to take, they would stop committing crimes because no one wants that kind of work. Trust me. The third problem it solves in one fell swoop is the cost of our food would go down because prison chain gang labor would be virtually free. No more cost of food. 3 problems solved in one. And how do you rate that? 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 stars? It's so simple. Democracy is simple. Getting there is going to be a little tricky, but once we have it, it's simple. Let me give you another one. What if it said, we hereby remove all marijuana and all related products like the cannabinoids and the medicinal marijuana from the Controlled Substances Act. The federal government wants to bust us for using marijuana, even though 30 states say it's perfectly fine and have even proven that it's a health benefit for millions of people, unlike cigarettes and alcohol. And yet those are not prohibited as a controlled substance, and yet marijuana is the one thing that is not addictive. Cigarettes and alcohol destroys your liver, causes hundreds of thousands of deaths every year, and marijuana not one. And yet the federal government, in their infinite wisdom, thinks they're smarter than us, and so they keep it illegal at this time. And so if this came up on the ballot, how would you rate that? Again, putting thousands of prisoners in prison, $100,000 a year because they smoked a weed that is actually medicinal and healthy. So this is a way to veto the idiotic ideas that come out of Washington, D.C., just because they have the power and they know that we have no right at the present time to veto their crazy, idiotic, sometimes treasonous ideas. Here's another great use of the Trumpocracy. Why is it we only get two candidates each election with a half a dozen really dumb ideas to choose from? I mean, two candidates out of thousands of people who have much better ideas than these two jokers. Most people in this country right now feel extremely ripped off by this most recent election. Why? Because we got two numbskulls like this. One of them who said, let's build a wall, right? And the other one who said, let's let everyone in. So building a wall, let's take that one. How great an idea is that? What if you just saw this proposal come up instead of a $500 billion wall that they would just tunnel under? What if you saw a proposal like this in the Trumpocracy? Any immigrant to the United States must prove that they have a job in the United States or be excluded. Now, visitor visas are excluded. You get deported unless you can prove that you have a job. That's what most countries do in the civilized world. That's what America used to do. To get into this country, you had to prove that you had a job or that you had a really good job skill, so we knew you were going to get a job. Doesn't happen anymore. Now they let any numbskull into this country if they can sneak in. But if you require a job, they're not going to sneak in anymore because eventually they're going to be caught. Like if they have a job, they're okay. They have a pathway to citizenship. If they don't have a job, they go back to wherever they come from. Now compare that, building a wall, to Clinton, who said, let everyone in. She wanted hundreds of thousands of people to come from Syria, a country we have absolutely nothing in common with, and other countries like that. And she wanted to let them all in. But then who's supporting them? We are, of course, the American taxpayer. They don't care about us because it's not their money. So they come up with these crazy ideas. Again, what if you saw this on the ballot? Any immigrant to the United States must prove they have a job in the USA, visitor visas excluded. You'd probably give that a 5-star rating. If you have a job, you're contributing to the economy. So why can't we choose from thousands of candidates who would have better ideas, such as some of the ones that you're going to see in the rest of this video? Why not choose from thousands of candidates and thousands of ideas? We can do that on the internet. We couldn't do that hundreds of years ago. That's why we don't do it now. It wasn't part of our Constitution, but we can change all of that, folks. Why not choose from a much larger pool of people who are much more qualified than the two numbskulls, Tweedledee and Tweedledum, I call them, because every 4 years that's what we get. Tweedledee and Tweedledum. Or Tweedledum and Tweedledummer. Just two. Why can't we choose from a whole population of people who have better ideas? You have better ideas, I guarantee it. You're watching this because you know there are better ideas that you could conceive of. How about this? A 4-day weekend. How would you rate that? You know, the 3-day weekend that we have, the 2-day weekend that we have now is given to us by the labor unions who went on strike. And, the people died in a movement to give us weekends off. Why not a 4-day weekend? A 3-day weekend? Why not? If we vote for it, we get it. It's simple. It would make life so much more enjoyable, wouldn't it? Why not? The strongest economy in the world, or it used to be. Why don't we reward ourselves with ideas like that? Now, some of you might not like that. So you give it a 1-star rating, it's not going to go anywhere, right? Or In any year, here's one of my favorites. In any year in which the federal budget is not in perfect balance, Congress will not receive their paychecks. How would you rate that one? Our federal budget has not been in balance since George W. Bush took over almost 20 years ago. So we're going more and more into debt, trillions of dollars, about $5 billion more in debt added every day because they can't balance their budget. They're just writing checks right now. Sooner or later, this is going to cause the worst financial disaster in history because they won't do their jobs. They're supposed to balance the budget, yet they don't do it. Why? Because we don't have a voice. We have no way to control them. Well, we do in the Trumpocracy because this idea, I guarantee you, all American patriots would give a 5-star rating to. If you don't do your job, you don't receive your pay. It's what we all have to agree to in the workforce. Why not our Congress? If you don't balance the budget, you don't get your paychecks. You realize with this in place, they would balance the budget every single time. They'd have to because it's their money. Now, when it's their money, they're going to get concerned. When it's our money, they don't care. How about a whole range of ideas on our income taxes from 0% of our money up to 100%? We should tell them how much we want to pay. They don't tell us. We are the people. We are the government, actually. They are supposed to serve us. That's the second most popular word that they use in their speeches. Democracy is the first one. The second most popular word they use is serve. They serve us. They serve the people. They want to get elected to serve us. So they're our servants, aren't they? Well, why don't we act like they're employers? We tell them what to do. They don't tell us what to do in a democracy. So why not from a whole range of ideas? How would you rate this one that makes it come a little closer to home, a little clearer? What if you had the proposal that personal income tax is abolished, but all corporate taxes are doubled? How would you rate that? I know I would rate that 5 stars because corporations aren't not paying any of their fair share at the present time. As soon as they make a little bit of money, like Apple Computer, they run away to Ireland, where they pay zero American taxes and about 2% in Ireland. So they leave the country to avoid taxation, and they're not paying their fair share, and yet they're helping to destroy the planet by dumping millions of tons of refuse from their industry all over the world. Since they leave this country, they leave all the regulations behind as well. So they're building their trinkets in China, where China just takes the debris from the manufacture of your cell phones and computers and so forth, and they throw them in the ocean. There's no regulation in China. Apple knows this is going on. They're helping destroy the ecology of our planet, our God-given right to existence. They're destroying it and not even paying a cent in income taxes to help prevent it and mitigate the damages that they do. So if you saw this on the ballot, I'm sure you would vote a 5-star rating. 90% of us would. 99%. Why don't we see these ideas out there instead of Trump wanting to lower corporate taxes? No, we want to raise them so that they become a real citizen of the world. Now, here's another fun one. What if you saw this on the ballot, all advertising on TV is hereby limited to 5 minutes per hour. Now, this would go on in greater detail to show how you'd have 2.5 minutes at the front of a program, 2.5 minutes of advertising at the back end of a program, so that you would have a total of 55 minutes to watch your program without interruption. Wouldn't that be much better than what we suffer through now, where we're interrupted every freaking 5 minutes? There's another 2 or 3 minutes of commercials. You have to use your remote control to flip around to avoid them, and even then you can't avoid them because you just end up on another channel that's having another commercial. I mean, it's insane. We should tell them what to do. They don't tell us what to do. The better ideas trump all of the dumb ideas that they give us. And it can be a wide range of social benefits like that, the one I just showed you, to this one. Bernie Sanders wanted free college, and he almost got elected president of the United States by proclaiming that college education should be free for everyone. Now, Bernie Sanders, had no way to pay for this, yet he still almost got elected president of the United States on this one issue. Now, the only reason he's not president of the United States right now is because there's evidence that Hillary Clinton betrayed him by using the apparatus of the Democratic Party to deny him his real delegates. And so he was cheated out of the presidency in all likelihood. I haven't seen proof of that, but there's tons and tons of evidence of that. So my point is, what if instead of these personality problems and all these power grabs, what if these ideas were just presented to you free and clear, and then we just do them or not do them, depending on how many people rate them and how high a rating they get. The best ones go to the top. Now, here's an idea that Bernie Sanders could have said, and it might have even blown away all the opposition that he had in the Democratic Party by finding a way to pay for his ideas. Let's say college education is free for everyone who is qualified and gets accepted into a college, but it's paid for by a 10% tax on drugs and alcohol. Now, that might not pay for everyone, but it's a start. Now, versus our present ideas, where do they come from? We get them from the corrupt and the brain dead, like George W. Bush. He was both corrupt, brain dead, and a traitor. He sent our troops to fight in the wrong country. The guy that he's kissing is the guy that had the country during the 9/11 attack. And there's evidence that they even supported the attack on New York. Why did Bush not invade Saudi Arabia as our response? Because his family has oil money and oil business ties to Saudi Arabia. So he couldn't send our troops over there. Because those are his buddies. They're not my buddies. I doubt they're your buddies, but they're George W. Bush's buddies and his family and all of his cronies. Instead of sending our troops to where the real attack came from, he sends them to Iraq in a distraction. And to me, that's treason. This guy should be in jail. So this is where our present ideas come from. Our economy started to go to hell in a handbasket when this jerk on the right got elected somehow to president of the United States, the most powerful office in the world. We have to have a way to control these people and to pick better people in the first place. Bush got us in a war in the wrong country. Let me say this again. $3 trillion of our money was spent. So what if we had in the wrong country in a treasonous war? He knew that's not where the people came from, but he lied to us. It wasn't a mistake from false information? Heck no. You all know that by now. It was a direct lie, a fraud, a traitorous deed. You should be in jail. So what if we had in front of us something like this? All wars must be approved by the people within 48 hours. How would you rate that? We, the people, have to be in charge of our country's reputation and our money and our treasure and our blood, not some high school dropout with a family name. This is what Trumpocracy will do for us. How would you rate that? Wouldn't you like the right to veto some of the ridiculous wars and international idiotic things that we do because of money? We're the biggest arms salesman in the world, our country. And it's going to our own enemies. It ends up in the hands of ISIS. Why? Because we do not have the ability as the American people to veto some of the crazy things that they do. Now, this guy finally said he was for real change that we can believe in. So I voted for him. I worked for him. I raised money for him. And what was the real change we got after 8 years of him in office? A health insurance industry money boom called Obamacare. He just let the insurance companies go run rampant all over us under the penalty of IRS threats if we don't go buy their product. How is that change you can believe in? And now it's going out the window after costing us trillions of dollars because it didn't work. Any basic economics student, first year economics student in college or even high school could have seen that wasn't going to work. All he needed to do is open up more competition with one of these types of Trumpocracies, and he would have solved the problem. So instead of one brain, see, that's the problem with what we have right now. One man, one brain, one idiot, one treasonous person making all the decisions for us. Sure, he might have a group of 5 or 10 more people, maybe as many as 100 people in his administration helping him make these decisions. But what good is 100 people? What is their thinking when they're all yes men? They're all party apparatus. They're all people that have their hand in the till. What good is that compared to the people who are thinking about these things, millions and millions of us, coming up with much better ideas? For instance, instead of Obamacare, what if you had seen this? 25 cents tax on a gallon of gas to pay for Medicare for all. Now, if you want something, folks, we all know from basic teachings in this world that if you really want something, you have to sacrifice. You have to spend money. You have to go to work. You have to get a job. You have to earn what you want. If you want a better lifestyle, you have to get a better job. We all know this from basic high school and just common sense. So if we want Medicare for all, we find a way to pay for it. If a 25 cents a gallon proposal would do it, then why not? It would cause us to use less gasoline, which is good for the world and the planet, the environment, slow down global warming, and we take that money and we pay for Medicare for all. There's a benefit that we pay for. Why do we get common sense ideas like this from these people? We have to overrule the idiotic things that they come up with, like Obamacare. And we can be in charge of our money. What if you saw this one out there? Personal income tax above 1 million per year is taxed at a 50% flat rate, no deductions, no loopholes. How can not love that type of thinking? You might not like it at first. If you're earning over $1 million a year, you definitely don't like it. But how many of us are ever going to see over $1 million a year in income? If we get that much money, why not just pay half to society and help improve the planet that we live in, the planet that gave us such abundance? Why would we be so selfish to want to keep it all, which is our present system? So we, the people, can do virtually anything. Under Article 9 of the Constitution, look it up. We have the power to do any of these things that I'm showing you. And it's time that we started doing this kind of thing, folks. Because if we don't, we're going to continue going down the path of mediocrity until we're finally destroyed as a country. Just remember, we can hold their feet to the fire. We can hold this president to all of his promises, plus a lot more that we haven't gained over the last 50 years. Trumpocracy trumps everything else. That's the website if you want to learn more. Trumpocracy for all of us. Trumpocracy.us. Go there now, learn more, get involved, because if you don't, then they just continue doing what they're doing to us by default because you're apathetic, because you're not doing anything to show that you're concerned and that you know that there is a better way. Because now you know there is a better way. Trumpocracy, where the best ideas from you and me, from the ordinary people, trumps all of the crazy, wacky things that they come out of Washington, D.C. And so in this section, what I want you to do is really buckle up and get ready, put on your thinking cap, really concentrate, get focused, because this is going to be a much more faster paced section where we get into a lot of details about the Trumpocracy and how it's going to change this country and the world. And I have to say that part of my role here as the instructor and your administrator in this is that I am available for speaking engagements anywhere in the country. Just contact me at the website and we will try to make it happen in your neck of the woods with your group or organization, because I can't do it alone. And also remember that this is all about your ratings. You personally, you and your friends, you and everyone you know, the entire American people rating ideas. And that's what will force them up to the top of the best ideas. And the best ideas, again, trump all the others. That's why I'm calling it a Trumpocracy. Now, I used to call it the Yelpocracy. So you may see books like that floating around also by me, because Yelp is what gave me the idea, the 1 to 5 star rating system pioneered by Yelp. It's a great thing. It's working. People go to their favorite restaurants given the reviews that they see out there from their colleagues and their peers. That's what started it off. And again, if we can use it for restaurants and hotels, why not for our political system that is so much more in need of rating the dumb ideas and the good ideas and make the best ones rise to the top. Now, it could look something like this. I mean, you're all familiar with this, where this is a picture of my Facebook page where someone wanted everyone to say hello. So everyone said hello, and you can like the comments, you can like people. So we're all familiar with this technology. Facebook has 2 billion people, and it works perfectly every day. So someone like Facebook creator Mark Zuckerberg or Microsoft founder Bill Gates will figure this all out in all the detail that we need. Someone is probably working on it even as we speak. And so I've taken my snapshot of my Facebook page and said, what if that was what Trumpocracy looks like in its application out there, again, in a familiar way. And here you have, search it and post it and look for people and look for ideas. So the technology is here now. Now, let me give you some more examples of how it can be used, because I don't want anyone to think it's just for a few pet peeves of mine or yours or somebody else's. There's going to be so many ways we can fix the world, solve our problems in 5 or 10 minutes instead of 5 to 10 years it takes our government to do things, sometimes decades, and then like Obamacare took them decades to fix the healthcare system. And did they get it right? No, it's about to be trashed, and by the next administration, and trillions of dollars are wasted right down the drain. Generations of Americans are going to have to pay for that fiasco. And so when they try to fix things, it's never really good. It's never effective. It's always expensive because it's not their money that they're spending. It's our money, your money, my money, our children's money. So here's an example that comes to mind when the great financial crisis hit under George W. Bush. How did he solve the problem? He bailed out the criminals who were the cause of the financial disaster. They did it intentionally. I mean, they did it with greed in mind, just to enrich themselves. Some of them made hundreds of millions of dollars overnight with phony, fraudulent bank uh, things like derivatives. It was just gambling. It was fraudulent contracts that had no backing, whatever. They just sold them all over the world. Instead of putting those people in jail, Bush rewarded them with huge bonuses, billions of dollars. Why? Because again, not their money, it's your money, my money, your children's money, your grandchildren's money, your great, 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 great grandchildren's money. We're never going to be paying this stuff off that we're in debt because of tiny little minds like George Bush and Barack Obama. So a way to fix the bank problem, and in this particular problem, is just to come up and say, hey, no taxpayer funds may ever be used again to bail out the banks ever. And that eventually becomes law, and they can't do it anymore. And we're going to show you how this stuff becomes law in a few minutes. So just hang on, hang tight. That's why I said, buckle up. This is going to be the most exciting, the most interesting few minutes of your life. Trust me. And I've got to go through a bunch of examples. So the red light will go on. I mean, a big bright light bulb will go on in your head for more and more millions of people as we show you the usefulness of this again and again and again. I've got to pound it in and pound it in because some people just don't pick it up that quickly, folks. But it is very simple. This is how simple democracy is. What if you got the idea to fix the economy by just saying, we hereby abolish Bush's Canned Spam Act and the Do Not Call list? This is really why the economy started to tank immediately after George W. Bush took office in the year 2000. That's when the economy started to tank. Look it up, ask people who were around. Everything was going fantastic under Bill Clinton. People were getting $65,000 a year jobs out of high school, and not even a year, $65,000 summer jobs out of high school. Trust me, I saw it with my own eyes, plus stock options. That's how the economy was booming. They could not find enough people to hire. And as soon as George W. Bush got into office, he completely reversed the economy to the point where we have this horrible, horrible, almost a total financial collapse. It's going to collapse at some point in time because of basically because George W. Bush can't add two and two and had the worst thinking, the tiniest brain in charge in the history of this country. He put through Congress very quickly, first 90 days of his administration, the two laws. You couldn't send emails to someone you didn't know, and you couldn't call them on the phone to someone you didn't know. This killed all the small business in the country because I was there. I was a small business. I was crushed along with millions of other small businesses like me. I could no longer compete with the large corporations in the world. That's how I know George Bush got bought out by the large corporations. He did it specifically aimed at me and the small business person. Now, the problem here is the small business person is or was the American economic system. Small business people do I think it's about 70% of the hiring, 80% of job creation from small businesses, people like me. I had 20, 30 people working for me at the time. George Bush gets in office, passes these two horrible acts so that you couldn't email someone or call them on the phone. I had no way to promote my small business anymore unless I wanted to spend millions in advertising, which doesn't work. That's how the big corporations keep you crushed because they, through Wall Street, can waste billions of dollars on advertising and on their brand and repeating things over and over and over. And there's three or four of them in any industry. So they just share it and don't let anyone else in. So we needed a way, and we still need a way, to veto the idiotic ideas from these people who somehow get in power, and then because of the bribery system, which we're going to cover in a few minutes, they're able to put over on the American people. So here's a way to veto people like George W. Bush. Now, another good use of it, how to fix the planet. How about a 10% consumption tax on all forms of energy that increase the carbon dioxide output of the planet? Because we know that carbon dioxide is causing global warming. It's the greenhouse effect. The Earth is warming by about a degree a year now. It's very, very dangerous. Never happened before in history. Some people don't believe it, but it's actual science. And sea levels are rising and pollution is rising. We're going to suffocate ourselves, kill all of life on the planet, including our own form of life, if we don't do something. So here's something that I can think of. You people who are watching this can probably think of 100 better ways to discourage the use of the production of carbon dioxide and decreasing the carbon footprint. If so, put it on the Trumpocracy. The best ideas will go to the top. These are just from my tiny brain. Imagine the power of this when we have millions of brains all working on these problems. Now, here's how to fix our own government spying on us. Yes, they spy on us. Again, because of George W. Bush, he immediately, right after 9/11, got Congress to pass the Patriot Act. And from the Patriot Act, we have the NSA. They actually take hundreds of billions of our own money, your money and mine, and then use it to spy on us and your fellow Americans. Is that American? Is that the kind of system we expected from these people? Of course not. Spying on people in other countries, that's bad enough. But when you use our money to spy on us, it's intolerable. It's unacceptable. So here's a way to fix our government spying. You just abolish the Patriot Act, or you abolish the NSA, or both. 5-star rating from 90% of you out there. I know that because no one likes to be spied on. Has it done any good? Of course not. We still get attacked. They didn't even catch the last attacker in San Bernardino And the one before that, they were posting that they were going to attack on their Facebook accounts. And after spending hundreds of billions of dollars to read our emails and listening on our phone calls, they forgot to look at this guy's Facebook page, and he killed like 30, 40 people. I mean, it's just ridiculous, total waste of money. The government is always a waste of money, and there are always better ways of solving things than to throw money at a bureaucracy. And so these are ways of fixing the world in these little Trumpocratic things that I'm showing you one after another. And you can think of 100 better. If so, they will trump mine and go to the top of the list and eventually become the law of the land that we must all obey. This is how we fix the violence in our nation. Part one. This takes two. All right. So the first one is no one undergoing psychological counseling may own a gun. Now that may seem harsh to some of the lunatics out there who think, gee, I'm bipolar, so I am going to see a doctor every once in a while so I can get my drugs. And but I think I should still have a gun because I need to defend my home just like anyone else. Yes, it's true. However, since you are unstable, the United States Constitution doesn't really protect you. It just says that we need to own guns to protect all of us from government. That's the reason behind that amendment that guarantees that we can all own guns. But it says nothing about whether or not you have the right to own guns if you're a wacko and are a dangerous person in society. 9 out of 10 of the last attacks that we've had, killing 20, 30, 40, 50 children at a time, going into theaters, schools, etc. These are lunatics going through, or unstable people, let's be more kind, unstable people going through psychological counseling. They don't deserve to get a gun. Now, as soon as a doctor says, hey, you're cured, go back to normal society, you now have the right to own a gun. Now, here's how to fix the violence in our nation, part two, because it takes two, at least two, might be 10 of these someday. But no, obviously, no convicted felon may own a gun. Simple, isn't it? See how easy democracy is? I guarantee you 99% of the people watching this would rate this as a 4 or 5-star rated idea. Because how on earth does a convicted felon, a criminal, a guy who probably used a gun to rob a bank or to shoot at somebody on the highway in a road rage incident, how does he have the right to own a gun? He forfeited his right to own a gun. You can't have crazy people and criminals who are violent running around in society, or you don't have a real society. You have chaos. So this one's just plain old common sense. A lot of you are saying, you mean we don't have that law in place right now? No, we don't. Not on a national basis. There might be a couple of states here and there that have something similar, but it's full of so many loopholes that they can never convict people on it and they can't enforce it. So this, democracy is simple. When you keep it simple, everybody's on the same page. These things can be enforced because there's no loopholes, and we make them that way. I'm going to show you how important that point is towards the end of this section here. So that's how to solve all the gun violence in this country. Now, how to fix the out of control spending in Washington. Here's one way. There's going to be dozens, there's going to be hundreds from people like you. These are just ones, again, that come out of my tired little brain. No taxpayer money may be given to any foreign nation. Now think about it. Why do they take money from you and me, your children, and all of our children's, going down generations, billions of dollars in debt? We don't have this money to give foreign nations. We're just printing it. In other words, we're borrowing it from God knows who, and we're going to have to pay it back someday. And it goes to foreign nations. Why? Who gives them the right to spend our taxes on foreign nations? They're not the government of the world. They're the government of the American people, the United States of America. They got to keep all their money in America, in my opinion. Now, if you want to give your money away to foreign nations, go ahead. You have every right as a personal individual to spend your money wherever you want. But my government does not have that right. If going into debt, especially to do it and causing all kinds of financial chaos to give money to foreign governments, 90% of which, by the way, goes into the pockets of the dictators running these countries. They put it in Swiss bank accounts and build palaces all over the world. Why do the American taxpayers have to build palaces for all the dictators of the world? I don't know. I don't give them the right to do that. Do you? So this is, again, one of these 99% certain 5-star rated ideas. You might have better ones. Get them out there in the Trumpocracy. Now, here's another big problem. They're always talking about entitlement, Social Security, unemployment insurance, all of this stuff, health care. What if you just had a proposal to give everyone over the age of 21 $2,500 per month? That's it. That's all you're going to get. There's no more entitlements. Waste it if you want to. It's your entitlement. Everyone gets it every month, and we figure out a way to pay for this later on. Now, I don't necessarily believe in this one, but I put it out here because it's happening in Switzerland. In Switzerland, they have a Trumpocracy. They're way ahead of us. They've had it for centuries, where they can put this kind of thing right out there in front of the public, ends up on the ballot. They're getting ready to do this one, a universal basic income for everyone in Switzerland over the age of 21. Every citizen in Switzerland, if this passes, will get $2,500 a month. Now, I don't necessarily like this idea because I don't see any way to pay for it. Maybe in Switzerland they have a way to pay for it. They probably already have so much money because they're a much better run country and they don't have deficit spending and their people don't get bribed all the time and they don't have foreign aid and wacko things like that, and they don't have people running around with guns who are psychologically unstable or are criminals. So they can afford to do things like this. They're seriously thinking about giving everyone $2,500 a month. Now, in my opinion, it should be paid by something, as you'll see in a lot of my other ideas, like this one. I prefer ideas where we pay for a benefit. Where there's a benefit, there has to be a sacrifice. Let's pay for it, and if we can pay for it, let's do it. Now, one of the ways to fix the infrastructure, I see this horrible infrastructure in the country. You can't get anywhere anymore because of the huge traffic jams all day long in every direction in every major city. And we're wasting billions of gallons of gasoline, billions of our hours sitting in traffic, very unproductive time, a very unwise way to run an economy. So one thing they're talking about is driverless vehicles. If everyone has a driverless vehicle and it's on the and all the vehicles are connected by Wi-Fi, they cannot crash into each other anymore. So everybody can be driving along at a set speed, 30, 40, 50 miles an hour, depending on the road. And you cannot crash into each other, so you can read a book, play a video game, talk to your friends, play a game of cards, whatever you want to do in the backseat of your car, and it takes you wherever you want in a reasonable period of time, because it's impossible to get traffic jams when every car is driverless and on the web. That's coming, but it's going to take decades, if not centuries, unless we find a way to pay for it. Well, how about a 10% tax on new cars and trucks? And you take those funds and you put it into driverless vehicles, the research and production thereof. So there's a way to pay for it. Lots of people, millions of people buying new cars and trucks. If you get that kind of money, you ought to be able to pay 10% to support something that will eventually solve the problem that you're creating by putting a new car or truck on the road. You're creating the problem, so we tax the creators of the problem. You see how easy democracy is when you can release the creative energy and other people can comment on this and rate it for you and help you refine your ideas. Another good way to pay for things and that we want. What if we wanted Medicare for all, such as Obama wanted, but he wasn't able to do that, so he concocted that idiotic Obamacare thing that's now dying. What if he had just said, hey, let's have a 25-cent per gallon tax on gasoline, and that'll pay for Medicare for all? Now, I would have rated that 5 stars. I don't know about you, but I would have, because I want to discourage the consumption of gasoline. It's bad on the environment, creates climate change, pollution, all of that, traffic jams. So 25 cents you probably wouldn't even miss. And it's like a cup of coffee, and not even that. And you have, well, when you fill your tank, it's like a cup of coffee at Starbucks. So a little bit of a sacrifice, and all of a sudden we have Medicare for all, problem solved, government not wasting trillions of dollars, and everyone happy. How to fix the air and the water? Oil companies, again, are part of the problem. So you tax the problem. You say 10% of oil company revenues go into a fund for a sustainable energy research and development. Very simple. See how easy democracy is when you have a way to voice your ideas and we're not limited to the ideas of a George W. Bush or a Barack Obama. We open up the creative idea making process to millions of people. This is what we're talking about. We have the technology to do it on the internet. I call it Trumpocracy. What do you call it? Want to call it real democracy in America? I don't care what you call it, but we got to start doing it. Now, another great idea, someone just got elected president of the United States because he wanted to stop the exporting of jobs around the world. A very laudable idea. And I love the man for coming up with that idea and stopping, he's already, before he's even in office, he's already stopped thousands of jobs from going overseas. That's fantastic. And, we want to continue that kind of mentality. We want, let's stop it. So how do you do it? You don't have to get on the phone and have the president jawboning people and bullying people and making deals that are questionable and there's secrets behind it and all of that. And God knows who's really benefiting. And you didn't save all the jobs, just a couple thousand of them. And how about if you just put a $1 million penalty on every job that any corporation exports to another country? Boom! End of story. 5-star rating, at least for me. I don't know about you. That would put an end to it, wouldn't it? Make it more expensive for them to export a job than the benefit they think they're going to get. I just find kind of a funny one, but it drives me crazy. Every 5 minutes I'm watching TV and I got my family around. I used to have young girls. Now they're grown out of the house, but young girls sitting around and you have children too, and on comes a Viagra commercial in the middle of your program, family viewing, and they're talking about an erection that lasts 4 hours. I mean, it's just ridiculous. You all look at each other and you laugh and you sniggle and you think, well, how, everyone turns beet red. Half of you leave the room. Why does that get on TV? Where did they get the right to put that on TV? Well, it's because the prescription drug companies bribe our Congress people because they would be the first ones, all of these Bible thumpers would have been the first ones to keep that off of the air, except they take money from the prescription drug companies and the prescription drug companies then do whatever they want. So there's an idea I'm sure 90% of you would get on board with. And now talking about this corruption all the time, what am I talking about? I'm talking about the fact that they're bribing our Congress people over and over and over. There's thousands of them that have descended on Washington like the plague, and they just walk into Congress and give them checks. I mean, they don't even have security cameras on these people because it's not a crime. So they just walk in and freely and openly give checks to Congress people and tell them not to do things like control them by keeping the Viagra commercials off the air and putting out, not controlling the banks and not controlling the oil companies, not controlling the polluters and all of that. They just bribe them with checks. It's really that simple, folks. They don't call it bribery because they're the ones that define the word bribery. So how about we define the word bribery? Whenever you give any benefit or money to a federal employee, 10 years in prison. I mean, it's that simple. That would put an end to lobbying overnight. No loopholes. They can't jump through anything. They can't back it up. They can't get around it or over it or under it. Just says, 10 years in prison if we catch you doing that. Now, folks, where does all of this going? Where is this going? I told you I would show you how this is serious business, not just fun and games. The country that we live under is formed by something called the United States Constitution. And it starts out with we the people, because that's who it's intended for, is all the people. At the time, they had intended it for the wealthy landowners who were also slave owners, by the way, but they were very forward-thinking people. They knew that they weren't going to live forever, but they wanted their country to live forever. They had fought and died and sacrificed and risked their lives and their property. Their farms were at risk. They could have been shot or hung by the neck until dead by the king. So these were very brave people. They loved their country and they wrote down what they thought should be the rules that we live by for generations to come, for thousands of years, if possible, to make the American dream possible for everybody and stand as a supreme example of what a nation really could be for the rest of the world. And we're not perfect, but we're the best country in the world. And it's really because of this document, the United States Constitution. Although it was hugely flawed because, as I say, they were slave owners at the time, they didn't even outlaw slavery until 100 years later. And it took a civil war to get the 13th Amendment to the Constitution passed, but it was finally passed. So the Constitution is a living document. Contrary to what the Chief Justice Scalia said, that it was a dead document, now he's dead, but the Constitution lives on. It will always be a living document. And how do I know? Because it's been amended 27 times. Amendment 1 is the one we're all familiar with. This one is the one that gives us the right of freedom of religion, freedom of speech, freedom of press, freedom to peaceably assemble. And most importantly of all, and it's often ignored or forgotten, not even considered by the people because we haven't had the technology to really put this one to use, but somehow the founding fathers snuck this into the First Amendment, what's called the Bill of Rights, and it's the right to petition the government for a redress of grievances. Now, really, everything that I've shown you so far in the Trumpocracy is my idea of a way to redress a grievance. So this is a right that's guaranteed to us in the in Amendment 1 of the United States Constitution, the biggest and most important amendment that there is. And we're all familiar with Amendment 13, or you should be if you went through high school and you sat through and kept awake through any American history uh, exam or class, because this is the one that we all brag about, is how we freed the slaves with the 13th Amendment, Section 1, very simply put, you can't have slavery anywhere in the United States are subject to our jurisdiction. And Section 2, Congress shall have the power to enforce this article by appropriate legislation. That's all it took to free the slaves and keep them free. We don't have slavery anymore, at least not on a legal basis by Constitution any longer. So it's the Constitution that I'm basing everything on. Article 9 of the United States Constitution says that anything that we have left out, meaning the founding fathers, if we've left out anything in the future, it's your right. So the Trumpocracy is our right. We have the right to redress the grievances, and we have the right to make our own laws. Like in Star Wars, you know, I always remember the famous Star Wars movie, and when they bring the plans to destroy the Death Star, one of the generals said, "Many Bothans died to bring us these plans." Well, that's what happened with our country. Many people have died to bring us this beautiful country. Democracy is simple, folks, but it'll be challenging. We need your help. You've got to go get the book, 2 books that I have out, Uber Religion, Expletives Deleted, and Trumpocracy, Drain the Swamp. Go get them. Give them to all your friends. Tell everybody about it. Don't let another day go by without you having the information and the ability to spread the word. Get the book, go to the website, get the courses, get the Audible files, get the t-shirts. Help spread the word. I cannot do it alone. And remember, it's all about your ratings. So I need your ratings. Rate this book, rate this idea, rate the Audible files, rate the courses that you find, rate everything. And from that rating, everything will go on and everything will snap into place. Remember, this is a spiritual journey. It won't happen overnight. And we have to dedicate our lives. Some of us will, some of us won't.